Hello again, everyone. Thanks again for sticking around today. We are almost near the end. This will be your last session, so we'll be done here before 3 o'clock. Just like the other ones, I'm going to give it one more minute because I know we'll have a few more people rolling in, but we will get started very soon. All right, friends. I have not seen any new participants for about a minute or so, so I'm going to go ahead and get started. Once again, thank you for being here. I always like to introduce myself, but I think all of you know my name by this point. Just in case, I am Rainer Gall. I'm the coordinator for student organizations. So I am your go-to contact for everything RSO related, whether it's registration or planning events, or as we were discussing today, financial related matters. I'm always here to answer those questions for you. So this presentation I'm about to go over is called Budgets and Bills, and it's going to talk about your organization financial account with the university. So many of you probably in the last hour attended the SABC session. SABC is our Student Activity Budget Committee, and that group is responsible for giving money to student organizations. That is where their responsibility stops, though. You submit a request to SABC, they determine whether they're going to approve it, and if they approve it, they will place money into your organization account. Once that money is in your account, SABC does not govern it. You will work with the Office of Student Involvement, that's me in my office, to actually spend those funds. So we're going to talk about your university financial account, how it operates, how to access the funds, the different processes available to you, and just some other useful policies you will need to know about your organization finances. So I'm going to go ahead and share my screen in this PowerPoint. Just a heads up for those that are tracking along. When my screen is shared, I will not be able to see the chat, but I've got my fantastic student manager, Mary Kate, who will be monitoring the chat. And Mary Kate, please feel free to butt in if there are any urgent questions. Go ahead and unmute yourself and stop me talking. But with that, we will get started. All right, so student organization budgets, how to spend your money. So overview of what we're covering, I mentioned this a second ago, but first we'll talk about how the funding gets into your university account. There's really only two ways that's going to happen. The majority of you, that's going to be your SABC funding. You have requested money from SABC, they approve it, they're going to transfer that amount of money into your organization account. Beyond that, there are other ways to get some revenue into your account, but those are going to be rare. All of that's either going to be transferred in from a different university account. Perhaps you're getting support from a campus department, or if you are depositing funds, cash or check, into your account, which is also going to be a rare instance. And again, we'll talk about those examples. Once the money is in your account, we need to talk about how to access it and how to use it. So we're going to talk about how to spend your money. There are a variety of different ways to do that, depending on whether you are paying something internal to UMSL or external, a third party outside of UMSL. So we'll talk about all of those options. And then again, we'll just mention a few additional policies that you'll want to be aware of. So how the money gets into your account. As we mentioned, SABC funding is the main way that happens. You submit a budget request using the finance tool within your organization portal on MyEngage. SABC will look at that request. As long as everything looks good and you followed the rules, they will approve that request, and that amount of money is transferred into your organization account. If it is not SABC money, anything else that is transferred into your account or deposited, that's considered revenue. So whether that is from a fundraiser that you did or dues that you collected from your members, anything like that, any money that is not university funds is considered revenue. A very, very important point that is new this year. The university has asked that we move away from having student organizations hold revenue in their university account. They would really prefer that if you are generating your own revenue, that is held in an off-campus account. There are a handful of groups out there who already have some self-generated revenue that was carried forward in their account. Those groups should already know who they are, and we can work with you on a case-by-case basis to spend down that revenue. But for the rest of you, please be aware that starting this year and moving forward, we are really going to discourage depositing self-generated revenue into your university account. There will be a few exceptions to that. Really, those cases are going to be if you have an overdrafted something. Let's say you got $200 from SABC, but you had an expense that ended up costing $300. You're on the hook for that extra 100. So we would have you deposit $100 to make up that negative balance. Beyond that, covering negative balances, we really don't want you depositing revenue into the accounts anymore. We would want you to go after an off-campus bank account instead. Having said that, if you need to discuss holding revenue, there are some options. So you would consult with us, but I will say right now, I'm not going to cover that in detail today, partially because it doesn't apply to most organizations. Most of our groups are only dealing with SABC funding, but also because that is really, really a case-by-case basis. And we want to talk to your organization specifically and speak about your needs specifically. So rather than discuss that today, I would ask that you contact us. You can reach me at gallra@umsl.edu, and we will set up a time for us to chat and get your situation figured out. For that handful of groups who do have a fundraiser or self-generated money, that money has been moved into a separate fundraiser account. Again, these groups already know who they are. We were in communication with you in the spring about your fundraiser accounts. Things to know about that: your fundraiser account is separate from your regular university account. You would have two different accounts, two different account numbers or MO codes. They're handled separately, but they operate the same. It is still, your fundraiser account is still a university account. It has to follow university rules. So again, those groups already know who they are. I wanted to mention those today though. If you think that your organization needs a fundraiser account, you can contact us and we can discuss that, but those are only going to be approved on a case-by-case basis. At the risk of repeating myself too much, I will move on. But if you've got more questions about that, feel free to email me or mention it in the chat, and we will try to get to those questions a little bit later. Okay, so we've talked about how the money gets into your account. Once you have been approved for SABC funding or you've got other money in your account, we need to talk about how to use it. So as I mentioned, there are a few different ways to use your funding depending on the specific expense that we are paying. Regardless of which method that we use though, the OSI is always going to require approval from the president and the treasurer of the organization. That's for our sake of records, to make sure that the organization is on board with everything. Sad as it is to admit, we have had cases in the past where one officer kind of goes rogue and tries to take all of their organization money and spend it for other purposes. That's obviously not okay. So to make sure that that does not happen, we're always going to require the president and the treasurer to authorize any spending of their money. Very important to remember that this is a university financial account. It is not a bank account. That has a few implications, and primarily it means it does not function like a bank account in that it is not, you don't have a debit card, you don't have a checkbook, you cannot withdraw cash from this account. It's more complicated than that. There's a different process we have to follow. It also means that because this is a university financial account, it has to follow all university policies. We're going to talk about some of those, but examples of that would be if you are purchasing software or computing equipment, the IT department has to sign off on that first. If you are purchasing t-shirts, there's a dollar limit sometimes on the t-shirts that we purchase. If you are requesting to purchase alcohol, that's going to get denied because that is against university policy to buy alcohol with university money. Those are just a couple of random examples. The point being, it's a university account. It has to follow university policies. I have mentioned this a few minutes ago, but if you would like to pursue an off-campus bank account, you certainly can do so. That is within your rights to do. We just need to make it very clear that unfortunately we cannot assist you with that process. If you are going to go after an off-campus account with like US Bank or someone else, you have to do that on your own. The university cannot help with that process. All right, so how to spend your money if something is internal to UMSL. What that means is we are paying something that falls within the UMSL accounting structure. Examples of that are going to be reservations for a space on campus if you are ordering food through SODEXO, if you are purchasing supplies from the Triton store, or a common one getting more popular is the print shop on campus. If you're getting flyers or handouts printed, you can order that through the print shop. All of those things are internal to the university, which means we can use the university payment process. Anytime you are doing something internal to the university, you're going to be asked for a MO code. That is the account number. That's the system that the university uses. So when you are asked for that, the way we have our process set up, we will not actually tell you your MO code. Since our office has to handle these purchases, we provide the MO code on your behalf. All that you have to do is tell the MSC or SODEXO or the Triton store, whoever it is you're working with, tell them that you are making that purchase for your student organization and you would like it charged to your student organization account. That office will then direct the purchase over to me. I will check your budget, make sure you have money to pay for it, and I will provide the MO code and handle the payment from there. So spending internal to the university, usually pretty straightforward. Even though among those different offices, it's all going to be done with a MO code. It gets more complicated when we are doing something external. So if we are buying supplies from Amazon or Walmart, or if you are ordering t-shirts from a local t-shirt vendor or anything like that, anything that is external to the university, we're going to have two different ways to do that. There is direct payment and there is reimbursement. Direct payment means that we are going to make that payment on your behalf and charge it directly to your university account. There's pros and cons to each option. The pro to direct payment is that we're paying it directly. You don't have to front the cost. We take care of that process for you. The con to direct payment is that, again, since it's a university process, it gets a little more complicated. That means it takes more time. So we cannot pay something on like 1 or 2 days notice. We need you to submit it at least 2 weeks ahead to make sure that the payment gets processed in time. If something, obviously we're not going to hold you accountable for things out of your control. So if you are given an invoice late or something, we will always do our best to work with you. But the point there is that we usually cannot pay things like same day. So if you go out and order stuff today and ask us to pay for it today, that's not going to happen. But you can order it today, bring the invoice to us maybe next week, and we'll try to get it paid within a week or two after that. If we cannot pay an expense directly for you, the last option is reimbursement. That means that you are going to go pay that expense out of pocket using your own personal funds, and then you'll submit some paperwork to us after the fact, including the receipts from your payment, and then we will reimburse you using the money from your organization account. Again, pros and cons to each option. The pro to this is the flexible timeline. This is going to be the most flexible option that you can go out at whatever time is convenient for you and make that purchase. This is very helpful for last minute things. If you're hosting an event and it turns out you didn't have enough markers or pencils for this event that you were doing and you need to go out 1 hour before and buy those pencils, you have that flexibility with reimbursement. The downsides to reimbursement are, first, that you have to front the money. That's never a fun thing to have to front your own money, even if you're getting reimbursed for it after the fact. So you have to be willing to front the money. And also a downside with reimbursement, due to the tax status of the university, we cannot pay sales tax. That's actually a pro to direct payment. If we are making a payment on your behalf, it's going to be a tax exempt payment. But if you make a purchase on your own and then we are reimbursing you for it, we are not permitted to reimburse your sales tax. So you're going to lose out on that 10 to 12%, whatever it is that the sales tax is charged. So between direct payment and reimbursement, those are going to apply in different instances. Each one is better for different examples. For direct payment, again, that's when we're going to make a payment directly on your behalf. You have to submit that payment information ahead of time so we have it. And in most cases, that is going to be done using a new tool on my Engage called the purchase request. So I am actually going to stop sharing for a moment while I open up the purchase request tool. While I'm opening that, Mary Kate, I'm going to jump out to you. Are there any urgent questions that I have missed so far?
Yeah, probably two. You could probably check.
Ask those. Yes, let's get those out of the way.
Okay, yeah. Okay, so this one, it may be better for Tori if you could specify what you meant with our organization advisors aware of these policies. Yes, okay. So they may be confusing outside accounts versus university accounts, Rainer, because they had a different question or a related question that says, because US Bank is on campus, are they available or are they able to make exceptions for university policies if they don't currently follow them?
I think I understand the question. I'll do my best to answer it. So US Bank, they have a location on campus, but they are not part of the university. So even though they have that location in the MSC, US Bank exists as its own separate third party. They operate on their own. What that means also is that if you have an account with US Bank, that is completely unconnected to the university. You technically wouldn't have to follow university policies using your US Bank money. If you're hosting an event, that event still has to comply with policies, but if you've got money in the bank deals with that. The bank has their own rules, you follow the bank rules. Your university financial account is not handled through the bank. It is handled through the Student Affairs Budget Center. Is that Student Affairs? Yeah. Business Center. Sorry, the acronyms were eluding me for a second. So your university financial account is just that. It's a university account. It is not a bank account. So anything you're doing with your university account has to follow all of the university financial policies. If your group has established a bank account off campus, you might do that through US Bank. And again, US Bank has a location in the MSC, but they do not report to the university. They are not governed by the university. So that can still, you would have to, again, follow all the rules of the bank. And if you're using that money for an event on campus, your event needs to follow campus rules, but your off-campus bank account, that's one of the nice things about it, is that it is off campus. You can do what you want with it.
And then another follow-up question they asked was for the advisors, are they knowledgeable on the do's and don'ts for organizations spending monies and such?
That is an excellent question, and my answer is that they should be. I can't always promise that the advisors have read the information available to them or that they remember, because also, to be fair, student organization policies are very similar but slightly different than like a department policy. So there may be some instances where the department can do something, but a student organization cannot, or vice versa, that a student organization is permitted to do something, but the department is not. So all of that is to say, yes, the advisors should be knowledgeable on this info, but I can't promise that they will be. We offer training to the advisors, but it is not as in-depth as the training that we do with you all. So when in doubt, you can always ask me instead. We definitely rely on your individual org advisors to provide guidance, but literally my whole job is to help student orgs succeed and help answer those questions for you. So if your advisor does not know the answer to something, you can always bounce back to me and I'll be happy to answer that question for you.
And then there was one other question regarding fundraisers from Zachary, and it said, are there common ways customers buy products and then transfer the money to the university account? I don't know if you need more clarification on that.
No, I think I understand the question. And unfortunately, Zachary, I'm not going to have a great answer for you. As I mentioned a little bit earlier about the self-generated revenue money that you're depositing on your own, the university is really pressuring us to move away from that with student organizations. So honestly, they do not want you accepting money from clients or customers and depositing that into a university account. So in support of that, we don't really have a good way to facilitate it. People have asked about like Venmo before, or Cash App, or any of those financial apps. They cannot be connected to a university account. So there is physically no way to get the money from Venmo to your university account. Even if there was, again, the university, for liability reasons, they don't want us doing that. So it is my obligation now to discourage you from depositing fundraiser money into your university account. You can certainly still do your fundraisers. You can certainly still collect money from people, but that would, for the most part, need to be handled with an off-campus account. And as you will recall, if you are dealing with an off-campus account, I cannot assist you with it. You're going to be, unfortunately, on your own to manage that. So I know that's not a very helpful answer, and sincerely, I'm sorry for that. I would still be happy to try to provide some advice for you if you've got questions related to fundraisers and how to do that. So if you wanted to follow up with me later, I can try to answer those, but that's the answer I can give you right now.
All right, you're good on questions, Rainer. Keep moving.
Thank you, Mary Kate. All right, so I'm going to share my screen real quick, and you will see that I have moved out to the MyEngage platform. So for those of you who attended the SABC session in the previous hour, Mary Kate talked to you all about how to submit a budget request. So we go into our, let me backtrack real quick. I'm using the OSI test organization for these purposes. So to submit a budget request, you would come into your organization tools, go to Finance, and then you are going to submit a budget request, create a budget request. That is not what we are doing right now. That is to request your money from SABC. Once you have been approved and you have money in your account from SABC, you're going to use the purchase request. That's what we're talking about right now. So this is a new form we are just starting to use this year. For those of you that were officers in the past, this is replacing the program supply order form that we used in the past. It's very similar, asks some of the same questions. It just functions better, mainly because it is connected to the SABC process. So I saw on the previous page that Mary Kate had submitted a fake budget for party hats. Say that we've been approved by SABC and it's time for us to go and buy those party hats. We can populate from your budget details the things that you have already been approved for. So I'm looking for the one that said party hats, and maybe it's not there. I guess I lied. But let's say that it was this example programming funds request. So that was the budget we got approved for, and there it is. So I can pre-populate from the budget that was already approved party hats, and we can give a description here. We are buying from Party City, or wherever it is that you're buying it from. Here's the dollar amount that we requested for it. This is a programming thing, and we are purchasing from our OSI test organization account. So you can provide all of that information. Down here, if we are paying someone directly for you, you're going to provide that person's information or that company information down here. So I said that we are buying from Party City. You can give us a street address of 123 address, wherever it is they live. And then any supporting or additional documentation that we need. So a great example here would be if you have an invoice from Party City already for the stuff that you are buying, you can upload that invoice here. That way we would be able to view that invoice and pay it directly. So you're going to fill out this purchase request form, and you're going to submit that request. Once it is submitted, I'm going to pause real quick to stop sharing my screen. Once your purchase request has been submitted, as we mentioned a minute ago, we do require the president and the treasurer to authorize any purchase. So your president and your treasurer are going to be prompted to push that request forward and move it to the next step. So there's actually going to be 4 steps. Step 1 is to submit the request. Step 2 is for the treasurer to review it. Step 3 is for the president to review it. And step 4, once they have reviewed it and moved it forward, it comes to the OSI, and the OSI will then review it and complete your purchase for you.
Rainer, you got a sec for a quick question?
I sure do.
How do organizations see their current balance in their university account?
Great question. Let me backtrack a bit here. I'll share my screen again. So if you can't tell, I'm very excited about this purchase request tool and the new features in MyEngage that we're using. It's because all of that is connected now, and you can see your live balance rather than having to like come and ask me manually each time. So if we go all the way back to I'm on the finance tab of our OSI test organization. On the finance tab, you can see all of the different budgets that have been approved or denied for the OSI test organization and how much funding is available for them. So in the party hats, we haven't spent anything yet, so there's a full $190 there. But if we go into there, once we start spending some of that money, it's going to be reflected down here. So if you see, I went into the test event budget that was approved, and you can view your transaction history and where your different stuff is sitting if it needs to be approved still. So if I had submitted that party hat purchase, the office completed it, it would show that purchase as completed right here, and it's going to reflect that your remaining balance is less than 190. Maybe it's $100 after that purchase.
Rainer, you want to answer a couple more questions?
Sure.
All right. So when they do fundraisers, do they have to accept only cash or check, or can they personally collect via PayPal, Venmo, and then transfer that to their university account?
So as I was mentioning earlier, unfortunately, the university has been really pushing us to avoid doing that, and especially, let me reframe this. So when you are depositing money into your university account, the way the university finances operate, we can only accept cash or check. There is physically no way for us to accept digital payments of any kind. So whether that's Venmo or PayPal, etc., those apps cannot connect to a university account. It is physically not possible. So even if you wanted to, you cannot transfer money from PayPal or Venmo into your university account. Regardless of that, even if it was possible, the university is asking us to discourage that and not allow that. So you should really only be depositing funds into your university account to pay a specific expense. If you are just needing to collect all of your revenue and hold it somewhere, that needs to be done in an off-campus bank account.
All right, Rainer, can they purchase from any vendor, or is there a list of pre-approved vendors they can purchase stuff from?
Generally, yes, you can purchase from any vendor. If we are doing, so let me take this point to jump back to my PowerPoint actually, because I kind of got a little bit sidetracked. Bear with me just a second, dealing with Zoom and PowerPoint. So with the off-campus vendors, coming back to my PowerPoint over here, we were talking about direct payments where the university pays on your behalf versus a reimbursement where you purchase and we reimburse you after the fact. For direct payments, there are preferred vendors. And if you have someone in mind, ask us. Unfortunately, that list is it's not anywhere public that I'm aware of. Not that it's kept private. It's not, classified information. It's just not, that list exists within our accounting website that students don't have access to. So I'm happy to answer for you if you're asking about a specific vendor, but I don't know that list is published somewhere. But even having said that, we have preferred vendors, but we are not limited to just those vendors. We generally can purchase with anyone as long as they are willing to accept a tax-exempt purchase. And this is all for direct payment. If we are doing reimbursement, where you go out and make the purchase on your own and then we reimburse you after the fact, that is absolutely not limited to anyone. You can go purchase from wherever you want personally, as long as you can bring back the receipt and your proof of purchase to us, we can reimburse you for that.
All right, Rainer, one quick last question for now. When they're trying to view their balance on MyEngage, does that include their self-generated funds?
It does not. That is a great question. So I'll answer real quickly. There are only about 20 RSOs that have self-generated revenue, and it's held in a separate university account. Those groups know who they are already, and if you need to track your balance of the self-generated funds, you're going to work with me directly to do that. I know it's a bit tedious, but the way my Engage is set up, we don't have it equipped for that secondary fundraiser account. It is only designed to operate with your SABC funds. So for most organizations, you're only dealing with SABC money, so you can see that balance within my Engage. If you have self-generated funds and you need to check on the balance of those or what's going on with those, you need to contact myself, or you can also contact Mindy Dilly, who works in the OSI, and she can answer that question as well.
All right, Rainer, it's 2:30, so you may want to keep chugging.
I'm going to keep rolling. So I'm back on my PowerPoint here, and we were talking about direct payments. In most cases, we're going to use that purchase request tool that I just showed you on my Engage. So as long as you have filled out the purchase request correctly, if all the information is there, the OSI can go ahead and complete the purchase for you. We shouldn't need you there in person to do the purchase with us. I apologize that I did not update this PowerPoint. Please ignore the words program, supply, order. That is supposed to say purchase request. So for most cases, you'll submit the purchase request. As long as everything looks good to go, the front desk will handle that purchase for you, and they will contact you when the purchase has been completed. Some exceptions to that where you will need to contact me instead. If you are purchasing something from Amazon, we can do that, but the university has a business license with Amazon, and I will spare you the details, but say that the front desk cannot do Amazon purchases. Only full-time staff members can do that. So you would need to contact me, and either I will do it or I'm going to delegate to another staff member in the office, and we'll get that Amazon purchase done with you. Another exception is if your total purchase is going to be more than $500. That's just for the sake of records. We have a limit on the front desk card that they use for $500 per transaction. So if you're spending more than that in a single setting, you'll need to contact me. And then of course, just any other unique situation. If there is something odd or weird or unusual about your purchase that just makes you a little uncomfortable, always feel free to contact me and I will walk through that with you and make sure that we're getting it done the right way. So if direct payment is not an option, as I mentioned before, our last resort is always going to be reimbursement. Reimbursement is not ideal because you have to front your own money for the purchase, but it is very flexible in that you can purchase on your own timeline, and it lets you purchase from wherever you want without having to go through the university process necessarily. So for reimbursement, either you or another member of your organization is going to go buy those supplies or pay that invoice using their own personal money. Within 2 weeks after that transaction happens, you're going to submit a reimbursement voucher form to our office along with the original receipt or receipts for your purchase. The OSI front desk can assist you with filling out that form. They've got an example one up there that can show you what boxes to fill out. We do need original receipts for the purchase. We cannot do a reimbursement without receipts. And something to keep in mind is that reimbursements do take 2 to 3 weeks. That is, to be completely blunt, that's because you will get a physical check printed and mailed to you. That check is printed at the system offices in Columbia, and sometimes it just takes a while. That is university bureaucracy for you. So reimbursement is a good flexible option, but it will just take a little bit longer for you to get your funding, your reimbursement back in the mail. So some additional policies. We've talked about the different methods to spending your money. Regardless of the method, these are some policies to keep in mind that are always going to apply. Once again, I've said this a few times now, your university account is governed by university policies. It has to follow the university rules. Some examples of that are gift cards or certificates. I will be completely honest, there is technically a way to purchase a gift card or a gift certificate with university funds, but it requires 3 or 4 different signatures, including the Vice Chancellor for Finance and Administration. That's a lot, and we simply do not have the capacity to handle that with our office. So for student orgs, we do not allow gift cards or certificates. Another example is software or computing equipment. This is something I was asked about earlier. That is possible. We can purchase software for you using university money, but it requires approval from the IT department. So we would have to go through that process first. Additional things to keep in mind, SABC money is use it or lose it. So if you have gotten funding for a specific event, you're gonna have up until 2 weeks after that event has ended to use up the rest of your money. We give you that 2 weeks after the event in case you have some reimbursements or just other late bills that are coming through. But Once that period has passed, any remaining funds that you did not use are going to be returned to SABC so that they can be reallocated out elsewhere. That 2 weeks after the event, that applies to programming funds. For general operations, we've mentioned earlier in the SABC presentation, there's not as strict of a timeline with general operations. We will do a cutoff though at the end of the semester. So if you have received general operations funds in August, you have the whole semester to spend down that money. But if we get to December 31st and you still have like $100 of general operations money that is not spoken for already, SABC is going to take back that unused money. Just some more policies to keep in mind. The university does have tax exempt status, but per the rules of the university, RSOs cannot use that tax exempt ID. So that's really going to come into play if, like, the most common example is when we see an RSO trying to do a fundraiser or a profit share with a local business. So if you do like a night at a restaurant where 5% of every meal purchased is donated to your org, the restaurant's probably going to ask you for a tax ID number. Unfortunately, we cannot provide that to you. RSOs are not permitted to use the tax ID number for their own activities. Another good example of policy to consider is that RSOs cannot enter into a contract on behalf of the university. What that would mean is if you receive SABC money to pay a guest speaker who is coming to an event, we need to have a contract in place to pay that speaker, but you as an organization cannot sign that contract. Since it's university money being spent, the university needs to sign the contract. We have a process in place for that though. So if you have an instance where you need a contract using university money, there's going to be a form on My Engage you can find. It's called the pre-contract worksheet. You will fill out that worksheet that will get sent to our office, and we will follow up with you to make sure that the contract gets completed and executed. And last little snippet, when in doubt, ask for clarification. I know that there is a ton of information that I've covered here, and just FYI, I still have a few more slides to go. But organization finances, university finances can be complicated. We know that. Again, that is literally why I have a job. So if you are ever in doubt, always come and ask us questions. I will always be happy to answer questions for you, get you the clarification that you need. And selfishly, it is a lot easier for me to answer your question ahead of time than for you to do something wrong and we have to clean up the mess afterwards. So we will never be offended by you asking questions. I promise. We definitely prefer that you come and ask us questions for clarification when you need it. All right, friends, we are almost done with the slideshow. Just a couple more resources we want to mention to you. Pardon me while I take a drink here. A great resource that's available to student organizations is the OSI Media Production Department. So we have one full-time staff member who has 3 student graphic designers working underneath her, and they do graphic design work for free for student organizations. So if you need a poster designed or a t-shirt designed or flyers or anything like that, the graphic design team can do that for you. Things to know about it: the design work is free, but they will not print the materials for you. So if you're ordering like a flyer, they will send you the digital version of the flyer. But if you want 100 copies of that flyer printed, you're going to have to order that yourself. You can use SABC money to print your flyers if you want to, but the graphic design team is not going to do that for you. There is no limit on the number of graphic design requests that you can submit, but we ask that you please be reasonable. Keep in mind that they're doing graphic design work for 100+ student organizations and other departments on campus, and there's only 4 of them. So they get a lot of requests, they get a lot of volume, and actually because of that, the next bullet says you need to submit your art request at least 2 weeks in advance of when you need the artwork. That's to give enough time for the graphic designers to come up with their design, send a draft of it to you, and they have time to also edit it and make revisions based on what you're asking for. So they will do a few rounds of revisions, making changes to the design if you would like. And also we encourage you to do it a little more than 2 weeks, because you also want your artwork displayed for more than like a day or two prior to your event. So we encourage you to get that submitted earlier if possible. For more information on the media production department, you can go to our office website, which is umsl.edu/student involvement, and go to the media services button, which is down at the bottom, or media production department, I think is what it says. And they've got far more details and instructions on what they can and cannot do, what their process is, all of those answers. Another resource is SODEXO. So obviously catering is going to look different this year. There's not going to be a lot of events that will have catering or a lot of events happening on campus regardless, but SODEXO is still there and they're still operating. So if you are putting something together and you would like to see about getting some food provided by SODEXO, reach out to them. You can go to umsl.catertracks.com. You can find their contact information, and I can tell you from past meetings that I have been in, they are really working hard to come up with some options to still support you as a student organization this year. Excuse me. And this is my last slide, so I'm going to actually stop sharing my screen to get my face back up for you guys. That is all the content that I have to cover, but I have seen the chat blowing up a little bit, so I will be happy to answer some questions. And Mary Kate, if I could ask you to one last time kind of mediate the questions for me, let me know what I need to answer.
Gotcha. All right. So, does Katie's graphic design department do art requests, with specifically logos on t-shirts?
That is one thing that they can do, yes. So when you go into the media production website that I mentioned a minute ago, they've got a more detailed description of all the different things that they can do, but one of the options you can select is a t-shirt design or a logo design or both. Yes, they can do that for you.
Okay, and then to double check, last spring, did the university go forward with swiping up the unused self-generated revenue from their primary financial RSO accounts?
Yes and no. So I see you in there that asked that question. I promise I am not trying to push you off, but that I need to answer specifically for your organization. So if you can send me an email with the name of your organization, I'll have to check on that specifically, because the plan was, yes, that they were going to swipe that, but then that did not happen for some organizations. But I don't know off the top of my head what the final result was. So I want to make sure I get you a correct answer. So I see, okay, thank you, fantastic. Yeah, send me that email and I will respond and get you that information. Quick side note on that though, for anyone that is trying to contact me, one last reminder, I am technically out on paternity leave right now. I do not officially return to work until September 8th. So please bear with me. I appreciate your patience if I do not get back to your emails right away. If you need immediate assistance, you can still go ahead and send me an email. I will get to it in a week or two, but you will also get an automatic reply from my email account that's got some other people on it. I can get you directed to either Mindy Dilly or Jessica Longpeas or Dorian Hall, some other people who can answer those questions for you.
All right, another question that was asked earlier, are there any types of funds that can be rolled over to other events or even semesters?
Generally speaking, no. The way SABC is set up, your funding is allocated and approved for that specific event. So if it does not get used for that event, then it is returned to SABC. Now, I will say there are some occasional exceptions to that. We have seen in the past, like a group had an event scheduled for a Friday, but then we ended up having a snow day on that day and their event had to be canceled. That's out of their control and we don't want to punish them for that. So we would give that group an opportunity to reschedule their event or maybe redirect those funds to a different purpose. But that's an extenuating circumstance. Generally speaking, unless you have an extenuating circumstance, you are not permitted to roll funding that is intended for one event over to another event. And then also over semesters, that answer is definitely no. We do not roll money forward from one semester to another.
So where's this recording going to be posted?
It will be on the student involvement website. That is one thing I'm going to work with my team to get done. My goal is by the end of next week, we will have a specific website for SOL and other resources where this recording and all of the others are going to be posted. So every piece of the training from today, those videos will be available on the OSI website next week.
Rainer, do you have that attendance link again?
I do. I am trying to put it in right now. It did not work. Let me try again.
Are there any questions I missed? Type rapidly or email us, or can they unmute themselves? I don't know. Oh God, Rainer's deep in thought, guys.
My copy and paste is deciding not to work. So I'm trying, guys, I promise. There we go. All right. Link for attendance has just been shared in the chat. So again, folks, if you can please visit that link. It is a very short form. It's just asking what's your name, what organization are you representing. That way we can confirm that you were here today. And thank you all so much for being here again. I can't say that enough. I know that it's a Saturday and it's never fun to be on Zoom for many hours. So I appreciate you taking the time to do that today. And I see down in our participants that we had 38 of you here today. So that's fantastic.
And everybody's been like super good, super cool. So this is really good.
Y'all are just incredible. I can't say that enough. I feel like a broken record. I know that I'm a broken record. I will use the excuse that my 2-week-old child kept me up for 4 hours in the middle of the night last night. So I'm, adjusting to that dad life, but here we are. All right, y'all, I'm gonna give it another 3 or 4 minutes since we are getting done just a little bit ahead of schedule. If you have additional questions, please feel free to pop those in the chat. But if you do not have other questions, then I am officially releasing you. Thank you so much for being here. Before you completely log off for the day, I have shared that attendance link in the chat. Please make sure you go and complete that attendance form so we can track you for the day. Otherwise, you are free to go. Thank you, and we will hopefully see you soon.
Hey Rainer, does that link also work for the SABC session?
It does not. There is a separate link for that. Let me find that one. And I did see who's there, Savannah. Let me reply to you.
And then Rainer, don't know if you're still working on that, but are you going to send out emails that the recordings have been posted once they are?
Yeah, we can do that. Yeah, we'll make an announcement to all of the organizations once we've got all of the recordings available. We'll send that out as a combination, because also for groups that did not have enough participants in the training today, you will need someone to do a makeup session. So we'll announce that makeup option when we get the videos posted next week.
And then Rainer, Jennifer and Gracie had a specific question with their Zoom.
I am reading that question right now about your Zoom account switched. I will be completely blunt. I have no idea what that is about.
Gracie, is that email for you? Is that your email account? Or is that just some random? Oh, wow, that made it even weirder.
Yeah, I've got nothing, Gracie. I am sorry. I wish I could help you more, but I've got nothing. So if you can, I would encourage you to reach out to IT. Let me see if I can get their, I think, yeah, it's helpdesk@umsol.edu. if you send them an email describing what's going on, they can at least either answer it for you or get you directed to the right person, because that is very unusual and I have no idea why I would be doing that. That does not make sense.
And then, Rainer, somebody asked, was there an attendance form for the first afternoon session and the morning session?
I see that. There was not an attendance form for the morning session. So don't need to worry about that. We had a different method for taking attendance in the morning. For the first afternoon session, I just replied to you directly with that link. There was a separate form for the first session versus the second session. So make sure you have filled out both of them. You're welcome.
Any more last minute questions? Anything about the campus? Does anybody need help with campus? We're campus pros, if I do say so myself. If you ask me where Clark Hall is, so I'm just going to tell you it's next to Lucas. So many people asked me that yesterday.
I'm going to interject quick just to say that I